This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Anne-Marie and Andric, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR. Hi, Katarina.
Hello there.
Okay, let's start with the obvious.
Yes.
Yes. So last week,
Yes.
15 degrees,
Yes.
sunny
Yes.
outside.
Yes.
A week later,
Yes.
we have so much snow in Stockholm.
I don't know.
We got half a meter in like 24 hours.
Love it.
We love it.
Yes.
Yes. So the world is like upside down, but still sort of in a good shape, we think.
To be honest, in November in Sweden, this is what weather should look like. But for the last couple of years, it hasn't.
No.
So in one way, we all worry about the climate, and we should.
Yeah.
And but on the other hand, is that we are all surprised that we get snow up in the northern countries.
Right.
So hey, let's just go to the subject that I think we're dying to talk about.
And that is
Last week we had HR The Real Deal Summit.
Yes.
Back to business.
Back to business. It was absolutely amazing. So we have this every year on an annual basis.
Yes.
Last week we had 183 real HR practitioners joining
Yes.
the summit.
Yes.
And we had 10 fantastic speakers as
Yes.
well.
And why do we cap it to only 180 since it's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that want to join? Why do we cap it?
Yeah, we keep
Tell
it,
me.
We keep
Remind
it,
me.
Yeah, I have to remind you. So we keep it rather small because we want it to be small. We want that intimate feeling. We want that space to be open, transparent, and for the speakers, but everyone who joins also to feel like we can talk about everything.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Everything on the HR palette, and actually, some things are rather delicate and sensitive to talk about. So that's why we cap it.
Yes.
So typically we have like somewhere in between 150 and 200, but we don't want to go above just for that reason.
Yeah. So it's not because we don't want to include more people. It's just
No.
because the people that are in the venue, and especially our speakers that are so generous with their time, their experience, but also the things that they have tried that worked really well, the
Yes.
things that they have done in their companies that didn't really turn out so well, and feel that whatever happens at HR The Real Deal also stays at HR The Real Deal.
Exactly, and that's an important point as well, because we don't share any slides afterwards. We don't film anything, so you actually are there for that day, actively listening, tuning in, networking, getting acquainted, and also just being there for that day is a very, very special day for every one of us.
Tell me a bit about the format too, because sometimes I think it surprises people that joins for the first time. Most people have been there for all 5 summits so far, right? We've done 5 summits since we started. But tell me a bit about like the no's. What will you not experience at a summit?
Yeah. So at the HR The Real Deal Summit, you will never see a sponsor or sponsors. So, and the reason for that is, again, coming back to the purpose, we want it to be only for HR.
Yeah.
So we don't want any sponsors. We're hosting it and that's it. Another thing that you will not experience is workshops or breakouts. We don't do that.
Yeah.
We want people to check in for breakfast. We want them to have a good, seat in a cushy chair, lean backwards and listen actively to the speakers. But we don't want any breakouts, any workshops. That's for other summits.
Yeah. And no expo.
And no expo whatsoever.
Nobody's going to sell anything to you.
No.
No matter if it's the best thing since sliced bread.
No.
Even if it doesn't work and it's called HR Tech. It's not going to happen, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I think, again,
So it's a safe haven.
It's a very safe haven.
For experience exchange happening.
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
cool. Okay, so let's go into
So
the lovely, amazing, brave, but also exciting speakers that shows up every year. I think we have a lineup and they do it for free. And they could, get paid a lot. And I think we all get like our mental books up to take notes and go, oh my God, okay, that is a way to do it too. Or thank you for sharing and fast forwarding. And it's both tangible, right? It's also very inspiring, but also quite inspirational and visionary.
Yeah, it is for sure. And I have to say, I think we said it before, Every year when we arrange these summits and we look at the lineup, we're like, how can we ever top this? And then,
I don't know. I have to go back to my address book and see if we can top it, because I also want to dedicate a special thank you for everybody. Sending a text, sending or calling or sending an email and say, are you up for it? And so far, there's never been one person that said, no, I can't do it, I don't want to do it, or why do you want me to do it? So thank you for doing that. I think it's really, really priceless, and also very, very nice. And as we said over and over again, very generous of people.
Very
but
generous.
Okay, so out of the gate, who came first on stage?
So the theme was back to business.
Yes.
Sorry. Back to business. And then Johanna Bolin Tingvall kicked off the summit. Johanna is in your team. She's heading up the learning and development, the talent growth, and the community X at Spotify. And I think, you're thought leaders in so many areas, but
Thank you.
Yeah, but you are. But I do think also that as growth is your mantra, and that you spent a lot of time and investing a lot of time in your people's growth. So it was so generous and also very inspiring of Johanna to share how you actually do learning and development at Spotify. So she kicked it off. She just set the scene in a very nice way.
Yes, it was a proud moment behind the curtains.
Yes.
And then following that act was...
It was actually my ex-manager, Stein Nauverlerts, who is one of the most senior HR leaders at Microsoft. He's been with Microsoft for the past 20 years. 20 years, amazing career. He's reporting directly to Kathleen Hogan. And it was so... for me, it was very nice to have Stein there, and I also know that the audience appreciated the conversation that we had on... it was primarily on diversity, equity, inclusion, with the focus on mental health.
Yes, where Microsoft is a giant. They've done and been committed to that space for a long time.
Exactly.
Do great work.
They do, but what we did also spend a bit of time on was that when I was at Microsoft 8-10 years ago, Microsoft was a company of a culture of know-it-all, and with Satya Nadella and Kathleen Hogan and with the rest of the organization during the past 8-10 years, the company has transformed from know-it-all to learn-it-all. So they also have growth very much embedded in their DNA currently. So we went down memory lane, and then
it was very, very clear for us listening to kind of your fireside chat, one, that you guys go way back, which I think was very comfortable to listen to. I also thought it was very sincere from Stein's side, which I also think when you, especially speak about mental health and also like the transformation or the kind of the change of culture, I thought that was, and then I also, besides sincere, I thought it was very kind of vulnerable and in a very good way. So I enjoyed that.
Thank you, Stein is lovely.
Yes, and following that fireside chat in the morning kind of session, we had like four
lightning talks.
Yes.
So 4 quick talks, basically 30 minutes. And we started off with Johanna Isander. And I think Johanna, she's the CHRO of Olink, which is a proteomics startup scale-up. Scale-up, they're a scale-up, they're not a startup anymore. She has a very, very interesting background in the sense of she's, I think, one of the few who has done IPOs, gone public with 2 companies, Nasdaq Sweden, Nasdaq US. So she was sharing the experience of, the do's and the don'ts, the hard learnings, but also gave us a lot of good recommendations on what to bear in mind when you do when you go public or when you do an IPO, because it's actually quite hard work for everyone involved, especially the CFO, which you actually mentioned, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting for 2 reasons. A lot of people can have a long career in the public sector, but also in the private sector, and never be able or never had a chance to be part of taking a company public. But I also think if you can do kind of, what does that mean if you wouldn't do that journey as a for instance, a public organization or a company that is already public when you join it. And she's not been to the rodeo once.
No.
She's been to the rodeo twice. So I thought that was interesting, and I thought she was very, very very genuine, and also I think she told us a lot of things that you can actually do and think of, and as always when it comes to these tricky things that is change management, is communication.
Yes.
So that was good.
She stressed us quite a lot.
Yeah.
Wonderful, lovely Johanna. And then we moved into Binet Sec.
Yes.
My God.
Oh my God! You just have to love Binet for so many different reasons,
Oh, wow.
right? But I also think she touches you, and when you get into the space of, I really believe that there's no way you can hide from passion and real passion. But she's more than that. She's smart, she's savvy, she's rad, and she tells you stories that you want to get engaged. You want to kind of up your game. You want to see what you can do and your organization can do to kind of create, especially that democracy in technology that she's talking about, but also the accessibility and how important that is. I think a lot of us have said and meant it, but didn't necessarily all understand what to do. You can't be what you can't see. But here she is, and having all these different foundations and groundwork where she does that. She kind of connects the different worlds, but also tells a story about her journey. I know that you got went also again, but maybe privately so, down memory lane when you were listening to her, and people cried.
Yes,
too.
yeah, it was very emotional,
Yeah.
and because she, as you said, she tells the story from her heart, from her own experience, but she also takes all of that experience and turns it into action, and I think that is so powerful. I believe she said it. I'm not quoting her directly now, but she said it much nicer than I do, but she was saying it doesn't matter if you have a lot of ideas if you don't do anything with them. Yeah. And she actually is a true role model there. Yes. She takes the ideas and she turns them into action. And what touched me was she together with her team at Changers Hub / Changers Tech, they are helping kids in socioeconomically disadvantaged areas to actually have that access to knowledge, to give them that entry ticket to the IT scene, right? Yeah. And I was brought up in one of those areas, so for me it was so touching. And we shared the same bus, it seems also, when we were going to school, Binette and I, 514. Yeah. Here we go.
But I also have to say one thing, because we had a speakers dinner. That is the only thing that we kind of do to get the network going in all directions. And I then learned something new about Binette that really pissed me off.
What?
She speaks also 7 languages. And it's not like the languages that are like cousin languages. It's like Chinese, and it's like Senegalese, and it's like French. And so she's smart, and obviously she's just a beautiful soul, but she's also a linguist.
A linguist. Yeah.
Is that the word in English?
Yeah, linguist.
Yeah. So I don't even know the word.
Yeah, linguist.
But I'm very, very impressed.
And she got awarded IT Woman of the Year this year.
She should get that award every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
Binette,
yes,
obviously,
yes,
dear to our heart.
Yes.
Then another very powerful HR practitioner who's also dear to our heart is Astrid Arndt.
Yes.
Dr. Astrid Arndt, Chief HR Officer at Zalando.
Yeah.
So she joined us from steaming Berlin to talk about the Zalando journey.
Yes.
Which was it was also so inspiring to hear her share the story. And she also talked a lot about how they, how you go from a one country company to a more international one, and what that means, and how you grow and how you work with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Very inspiring.
Yes.
To hear.
I thought it was fascinating, and I also like this. HR CHROs or CROs or head of HR or people, we come in all shapes and forms and fashions, right? But I think Astrid really reminded me of that, because she's kind of one foot in academia in many ways. She's very structured. She's very much of everything that I'm not. And then on the other side, I thought she was so funny.
She was.
That I laughed several times out loud in a way that was not necessarily really charming for myself, but I thought like those kind of going in between was also very rewarding and very, very good.
It was, for
Yes.
sure. Thank you so much, Astrid. It was such a blast to hear you as well. And then we close this quartet of lightning talks with Daniela Maniaci, who is the director of talent acquisition and employer branding at Northvolt.
Powerhouse, trailblazer.
Italian.
Yes, yes. There's no way that you will not pick that up in like a mini second. But I also thought that she was just amazing to listen to. And you could again think of, if you've been in hypergrowth yourself for a long time, that you're like, yes, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, okay. But, you know, I think some of the challenges that Northvolt has, and also what they're trying to do with like a multifaceted kind of talent acquisition journey. I thought that was just amazing to listen to, and I have to say I totally fell in love, obviously in a professional way, but it was just I thought that was interesting, and I could have listened to her like the others for much longer.
Yeah, it was, and I think Northvolt as a company and their purpose and their growth, there are so many layers to that. So yeah, and she was fascinating.
And also the people that they actually find, search and relocate, and not just to Sweden or Västerås or Gothenburg or Stockholm, but also to Skellefteå, which I also thought was interesting, that she had really nailed the way that they pronounce Skellefteå with her Italian English.
Yes.
That was just very, very, very adoring and very, very nice.
And then for our listeners who don't know where Skellefteå is, it's actually up north in Sweden, and it looks like
it looks
this,
like this all the
10
time.
months of the year. So it's so it's it may be a bit of a challenge to actually relocate global talent to the northern parts. So we closed the four lightning talks in a very nice way, and then we had lunch, and then we moved into the afternoon, and we kicked it off with two scholars from the academia.
Yeah.
So Nina Falkstrand, who was co-hosting my co-MC, she had a discussion with Lena Lid Falkman, who is a scholar from Karlstad University and also from the Stockholm School of Economics, and Leif Denti, who is a doctor and PhD from the University of Gothenburg. They were obviously talking about their research, and their research have been focusing on, for the past few years, actually quite a lot of years, on flexible work, what that does, how it affects people, and also from an innovation and creative standpoint. Now, it was I think it was 45 minutes
of stand-up comedian.
It was stand-up.
Even if they were sitting down.
Yes.
They were so funny. They were also so on point. And I think we got most of our one-liners from that session, to be honest.
We did.
And they pacing their kind of takeaways and their knowledge and what their research have seen in a very different way, and approach it in a very different way. But I think Lena started off by saying something that is also interesting for everybody that works with people, organization, workspace, workplaces, is that she's actually done research within this field for so long.
Yes.
But she started doing it when it was so out, and now it's so in. And I think that is very interesting, how things trends. And if you just work on something long enough, it's going to be really, really, really important and trending.
Yes.
And that is what it is now. Everybody's trying to crack the code of, new ways of working, what hybrid means. And she also then gave us, instead of talking about distributed or hybrid, she said or flexible work, she talked about smart work.
Smart working, exactly. No, but it was so much fun to listen to them. They might have a standing invitation for the next summits to come. But it was like Nina said, she just pressed play and they just took over.
Yes.
She didn't have to ask any questions.
Yeah, and I think we could have listened to them too for hours and hours, because everything that they said, I think the funniest moment too was this. So they seen all research right now when they talk about Gen Zs or the millennials that, or especially Gen Zs that are entering the workplace. All of them want one thing, and I think we all went like, is it salary? Is it like values, or is it like whatever? And then she got, no, they want an office. And then the other thing that they like are agreeing 100% that they don't want is to be asked to come into that office. And I think everybody laughed because I think that is what we recognize it.
We recognize it.
They want an office, but they don't want to be told to get into the office.
Exactly.
Yes.
So work with that, employers. Yes. No, but it was amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lena and Leif. And then we moved into Joanne Payne, CHRO, Clear Channel. She was, the topic was imposter syndrome.
Or not, actually, because she starts off there and then she moves to, it's not really that, and stop calling it that.
Right, you're right. But it was also, we talked about earlier how personal our speakers are. I think Joanne was also so much on point there. She was so personal. She was sharing her own story, how she grew up. And we talked earlier about, our speakers being funny and stand up. I think Joanne, she just slayed it.
Yeah.
She just slayed it.
She's a funny lady, but there's more to it. Otherwise it's not funny, right?
No, of course.
And very serious and a lot of takeaways, and I think most people could recognize themselves, but she packages in a way that is very easy to digest. And
yes.
You laugh and you almost also cry in a good way. So yeah. I think she gave us the energy that you need after a long day with a lot of things and a lot of thoughts and provocative also, I think, and sometimes things that you want to challenge.
Yes.
So that was a good kind of
it was
agenda point.
It was a super nice keynote from Joanne, and then we closed the summit. Mm-hmm. This is a full day summit. So we closed the summit with inviting back Tomas Chamorro Premozic. And I was introducing and I was thinking, where do I even start to introduce this very multi-talented professional and human being?
And also a doctor and also a professor.
Activist.
So, yes,
author.
An activist. But I think one of the most interesting provocateurs that we have in the space, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's also, he doesn't get like little spotlight on him, but for me he is a rock star, and I don't understand why he doesn't get even more spotlights on him, because I think he says the things that we all think and sometimes have not thought about at all, but he does that backed up with a lot of research and very, very, very kind of provocative arguments in a very, very nice way.
Yeah, and he definitely, and he was, so we had him actually on a summit 2019 where he then talked about his research on why do so many incompetent men become leaders and how to fix it. Mm-hmm. And he also published a book, that was in 19. Now this year he talked about rethinking authenticity. That's a difficult word. Mm-hmm. Can you be too authentic?
Mm-hmm. And what does it actually mean, and what is the definition?
Yes.
And where does it take you if you talk about that all the time,
right,
and have not followed through with the thought?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thomas is Thomas.
Thomas is Thomas. Couldn't be more grateful that we had people flying in from Berlin, from Brussels, but also from
London.
Thomas in London and also Rome.
Yes.
And obviously for all the people showing up from different parts of Sweden and Stockholm too.
So I think it was a very nice day. Yeah. We enjoyed ourselves. Hopefully everyone else enjoyed themselves as well.
Yes.
And we got a lot of good insights and valuable learnings and some laughters as well during that day.
Yeah, and I have to say, even if I saw all the speakers from behind, because obviously it's a non-profit kind of day, so we try to not have a lot of costs floating around. So I'm kind of technician that day. Yeah. So usually you see speakers up front, right, and you see their slides. Now I have to say, which is not necessarily 100% PC, but I saw them from the behind, but hey, it gave me so much to think about. Also reminded me that the team and I are onto a couple of things, but we also need to maybe challenge a couple of chosen truths. So for me, it was an amazing day, and thank you for hosting again. And you and Nina did a really great job. Let's see what they say in the survey. because I don't think you are only about the flair. And for those who know, you know what I'm talking
For
about.
those who know, you know. And you know what? You were not from behind. You were behind the curtain, Katarina.
Yes, which is also doesn't necessarily sound all that PC.
It doesn't. Okay, maybe it's time to close
But
this
it keeps
now.
me grounded to actually be like the person that carries stuff and also do tech during a summit.
So,
Yeah.
teammate,
Okay.
shall we close it?
Yes.
Yeah, with the 3 things.
Yes.
Yes.
Stay safe, stay strong, stay active.
Idem och Dalje. From behind! Katarina!
Yes.
I saw them from behind.
The green giant does it again! Jag är ju trendsetter.
Ja.
Kolla. Välkommen till Vinterstudion. Nu har vi tagit oss till Bruksvallarna.
Japp.
Japp. Och där får man inte blåbärssoppa.
Nej.
Där får man hjärtankaffe.
Den
Jag är
går.
så sugen
Så
på
ska
att
det
vi
vara.
skulle ha suttit ner där bland de där snöklädda stolarna. Ja. Det är jättekallt i stjärten.
Okej. Här. Och gud så mysigt.
En vanlig dag. En vanlig fikarast kan man säga.
Den här.
Tack. Tack Simon.
Tack Simon.